Like Mary said, it's true, we have appropriated fund balance about $300,000. So,
That we're carrying from
that
last year.
we're carrying from last year. So if you did the whole $300,000 again, you can knock that rate substantially low. My only concern on the 300 is taking the full 300,000. I'm very concerned. We got one more week too. I'm very concerned what we're going to wind up this year. I'm going to finish the analysis, sit down with the departments, and get back to you on that.
Well, we can come up with a compromise in the middle where we can do both. We can reduce the tax rate and also add to the fund balance, which obviously you would feel comfortable doing. I'm sure everybody at this table wants to reduce the tax rate, so, you know, I'm assuming that's the discussion we're gonna have.
Absolutely. So, but if you start with, there's a difference between adding to the fund balance and keeping the fund balance at 20%, if 20% is the magic number. So, because I'm assuming that Marcus isn't telling us that we're going to have a deficit in '06 and we need to make up a deficit in '07 by increasing taxes. I'm sure that's not the message we're sending.
That's
right. Okay. So assuming, right. So assuming that nothing is, so assuming that our message is not that we have to increase taxes in '07 to make up the deficit in '06, it's how do we best use the fund balance we have. Now, right now, we have $500,000 that we set aside for retirement benefits, but we have $3.5 million that we set aside as part of designations for retiree health. Now, the rationale for $3.5 million for retiree health as opposed to something like $500,000 would be what? I mean, because that's 3 years' worth of retirement health care costs that we're trying to set aside as a designation.
Well, I'm looking at it across the $7 million. For that OPEB for this destination we have, it's at your discretion. You can use it. You can move it over to undesignated if you want to. I'm looking at that number as a number that's controllable by the city council.
I understand that, but for the Moody's, what Ray is saying is for Moody's we need, what is our undesignated piece?
Correct.
Okay. So if we had, I wish I had
My argument to Moody's is going to be that the money we put away for OPEB is per se undesignated. I mean, because it's not a requirement by GASB to get it to actually do anything about it now. We just did it, but we have the extra money in there, and we put it in a destination if we moved at any time.
I mean, we don't get any particular credit. I mean, nobody gives us, I mean, is there anybody giving us any credit for having set aside, quote, designated $3.5 million?
According to Ray, just a credit towards Moody's to say that we're trying to designate as much money as we can to all possible outside costs within the foreseeable future. That's what Ray said. But again, it's considered undesignated, but you can get size, can move it out and put it undesignated if you wish.
Right.
So it is controllable by you guys.
Okay. So you can actually take, and I forget if it's 7.2 or 7.7 off the top of my head, but whatever the total amount is before you did your internal designations at the end of '05. If you treated retiree health care and retirement benefits the same and said, okay, let's just set aside $500,000 in designations for both of them. That frees up another $3 million as undesignated money. Plus, you can roll forward your designation for the use of fund balance that you set aside in '05 to support the '06 tax rate that you don't think you're going to need. That can roll forward to '07. So I think your concern is you're trying to balance staying close to kind of the 20% mark, but at the same time not, 20% of fund balance being undesignated, but at the same time being able to reduce our tax rate. And it looks like we have a hard time hitting the 20% if we look at our free money is only $3 million as opposed to $6 million, which is what it really is, or a little higher, quite frankly. And I don't know if $6 million is what percentage of our operating budget off the top of my head, but
couldn't you just designate $132,000 to go from appropriated fund balance for this year's, for the '07 budget, and you just knock 1 percentage point off the tax rate increase?
You're looking at the 1% change. But we already have 3 times that amount rolling in from last year.
Well, you're true, you have. So the idea is you're going to use all the money you have?
The 355, the 355,000 that you set aside to support the '06 rate. Wouldn't you have used it in '06 if you had a deficit?
Well, we don't know yet. That's what he just told you.
For the '07, My
Take the
concern was
you're saying take the
We don't know
conservative,
how close this 06 budget's going to end up
take the
being.
conservative
The
route.
nice thing, we have a fund balance to actually make up for it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a good, which
you're-
I didn't have it.
So you're suggesting from a 2.8 down to a
To
1.8?
1.8, Marcus has it $132,000, 134,888 from.
What if we wanted to go lower than that? What if we wanted to go down?
Well, as low, you know,
But-
you can go as low as you want.
Right.
I mean, I got a little spreadsheet which I can plug the numbers in. You just tell me how much you wanna take out of fund balance and I can plug it in, I'll tell you.
So in other words, if we
exactly.
added, say, $100,000, we plan on adding, having $100,000 of the 300, would you feel comfortable that would be enough to?
I'll tell you what the percentage is and.
Marcus, there's an edge.
No, but I have a little spreadsheet, so.
I just think we can come to a compromise with everybody and support. I would hope.
Right, I mean, I think you can probably,
I know,
if
right?
you're uncomfortable both trying to keep the tax rate and the water rate down, I think at a minimum, we can get to 0 on the tax rate and leave the water fees. But the only thing you're doing with the water fees is supporting moving the almost $600,000 out of the water fund to the general fund. I mean, that's what that basically does. But whether you set aside $100,000 out of a $7.7 million fund balance or $400,000, it's really not gonna affect how the water.
If you're
balance
asking
is.
me, I would rather see you go down to a 0 on the taxes and maintain the water as I've recommended, because we're in the largest capital improvement project in our city's history, and we're gonna need some money in there.
And they could
And
be,
when that project is all over, all the bills are paid, the contractors are gone, then we can start to stabilize just how much you want in fund balance in that fund.
and could we then adopt a policy after this year to stop the transfer out of the water fund?
You can anytime you
Yes.
want.
We can do that anytime we want.
I think that that's really important for this, for the individual homeowner. I mean, as a fee, it's not, it can't be written off on their taxes. As a tax out of the general fund, it certainly can be, so. I mean, and it's really, balancing a different budget.
Well, the only thing is though, Dan, it is a user fee though, correct?
Correct. And
But
there
then
is,
why
and there
is it
are,
Going to the operating budget.
So,
well, the theory is
If that's the
services
case.
of the general fund
right,
to the water fund.
Right,
That's-
but that's never
the
been
theory.
substantiated.
No, it is, but that, you know, and it's not an unusual, most enterprise funds in most cities I know pay their general fund, so I didn't, make it up. But
Oh,
still.
it was happening far before you came
No,
down.
I
I'm
boosted
not
it.
blaming you. I've been complaining about it.
But,
What is it?
it is still.
$100,000 would be, do a tax rate of 2.04, which is a $41.37 increase per year.
Well, we were talking about one.
I asked using $100,000 of the 300 toward reducing the tax rate.
What would 200,000 do?
That'd be about
It'll be a 1.29% increase,
What would it be?
1.29, which is $26.04 a year increase.
Which for the psychological value, I think we're better off going with the 0% tax
$26.04.
water fees alone and adopting a policy that stops the movement of funds for the away budget between the two funds until we get all of our debt service online and all of our costs within the water fund fully known, but when we have a new filtration plan up and we know exactly where
What
we're
the
gonna
total
be.
cost of that is gonna be.
I agree.
Marcus, and you said this 2604 would be what, based on a year?
Because people are gonna
What?
bitch.
No, a year.
A year?
That's for the whole year.
It's only $100 a year, we're just, you know.
Which is $2.17 a month.
Okay.
Well, it's a council decision, really.
God knows our taxpayers have taken some big hits over the past 5 years, so they could use a break.
You feel comfortable with that, Marcus? Can we-
Yeah, that sounds fine.
0 and leave the water rates alone.
Yeah.
That's, if that's your
Everybody
decision,
support that?
Yes.
we will draw up the appropriate resolution for next Monday night. And it was dawning on me, you've had some difficult decisions, and you've been grappling with some issues, but those are issues that are a result of your success, because it's the issue, you have money,
We have money, I know.
and
Is it we have money?
congratulations.
Not many communities